Welcome, everyone. Today we are going to explore the powerful ideas from the book Think Straight by Darius Farrow. This is not just a book about thinking. It is a book about how the way you think shapes the entire direction of your life. Most people believe their problems come from the outside world, from circumstances, from other people, from bad luck. But this book shows something very important. Many problems in life actually come from how we think, how we react, and how we make decisions. When the mind is confused, emotional, and distracted, we make poor decisions. And poor decisions slowly create a difficult life. But when the mind becomes calm, clear, and rational, we begin making better decisions. And better decisions create a better life. That is what this book teaches. It teaches you how to slow down your thinking, question your thoughts, avoid emotional reactions, and make wiser decisions. And the truth is simple. If you learn to think clearly, you can avoid many mistakes that destroy people's time, energy, relationships, and opportunities. In this video, we will explore some of the most powerful lessons from this book. Lessons that can help you reduce overthinking, control your mind, and build a more peaceful and focused life. So stay with me until the end, because the lessons you are about to hear can change the way you think about your own mind. This video will also help you improve your English listening and understanding. If you enjoy learning through videos like this, make sure to subscribe and join us for more powerful lessons. Lesson 1. You become what you think. One of the most important ideas in this book is very simple but extremely powerful. Your thoughts shape your life. Every action you take begins with a thought. Every habit begins with a thought. Every decision begins with a thought. If your mind is full of fear, negativity, and confusion, your actions will reflect that. But if your mind is focused, calm, and positive, your actions will move you toward growth. Many people underestimate the power of their thoughts. They think thoughts are just random things inside their head. But in reality, repeated thoughts slowly become beliefs, and beliefs influence behavior. For example, imagine someone who constantly tells themselves, "I can't do this," or "I'm not capable." Over time, that person starts believing those thoughts. And once the belief becomes strong, their actions begin to match it. They avoid challenges, they stop trying new things, and they limit their own potential. But the opposite is also true. If someone trains their mind to think differently, to focus on learning, growth, and possibilities, their actions begin to change. They take more initiative. They face problems with more confidence. And slowly, their life begins to improve. This is why controlling your thoughts is so important. You cannot always control what happens around you, but you can control the way you think about it. And when you take control of your thinking, you begin taking control of your life. Lesson 2. Clear thinking requires training. Many people assume that thinking clearly is automatic. They believe the brain naturally makes good decisions. But the truth is the opposite. Our brains are not always logical. They are emotional, biased, and easily distracted. Without training, the mind often jumps to conclusions, reacts emotionally, and makes impulsive choices. This is why the book emphasizes something important. Clear thinking must be trained. Just like the body becomes stronger through exercise, the mind becomes stronger through mental discipline. If you never train your thinking, your mind will react automatically to situations. You may become angry too quickly, make rushed decisions, or worry about things that are not important. But when you train your mind to slow down, analyze situations, and question your thoughts, your thinking becomes sharper. For example, when something stressful happens, an untrained mind may immediately panic. But a trained mind pauses, evaluates the situation, and asks, what is the best way to respond? That small pause can completely change the outcome of a situation. Training your thinking means developing habits like reflection, observation, and patience. It means not believing every thought that appears in your mind. The more you practice this, the more control you gain over your reactions. And when your thinking becomes stronger, your decisions become wiser. Lesson 3. Stop overthinking. One of the biggest problems people face today is overthinking. Overthinking happens when the mind analyzes a problem again and again without taking action. Instead of helping us solve problems, overthinking often creates anxiety, confusion, and stress. The mind keeps repeating the same questions. What if something goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I made the wrong decision? And instead of moving forward, the person becomes stuck. The book explains that overthinking is dangerous because it gives the illusion of productivity. You feel like you are doing something useful by thinking about the problem, but in reality, you are simply going in circles. Clear thinkers understand something important. Thinking should lead to action. Thinking is useful when it helps you understand a situation and decide what to do next. But when thinking becomes endless analysis without action, it becomes a trap. One way to reduce overthinking is to focus on what you can control. If something is within your control, take action. If something is outside your control, worrying about it will not change the outcome. Another way to reduce overthinking is to simplify decisions. Many people get stuck because they want the perfect answer. But in most situations, progress is more important than perfection. Making a reasonable decision and moving forward is often better than waiting endlessly for certainty. When you learn to stop overthinking, your mind becomes lighter and calmer. You gain more clarity, more energy, and more focus. And that clarity allows you to move through life with greater confidence. Lesson 4. Filter your thoughts. One of the most important skills you can develop is the ability to filter your thoughts. Many people believe every thought that appears in their mind. But the truth is, not every thought deserves your attention. Every day, thousands of thoughts pass through your mind. Some thoughts are helpful. Some thoughts are useless. Some thoughts are negative. Some thoughts are completely irrational. If you accept every thought as truth, your mind becomes chaotic. Imagine someone who wakes up in the morning and immediately starts thinking, what if today goes badly? What if people judge me? What if I fail? What if everything goes wrong? If that person keeps believing these thoughts, their entire day becomes filled with anxiety. But here's the truth. A thought is not a fact. A thought is simply a mental event. Your brain produces thoughts constantly, just like your heart beats constantly. But that does not mean every thought is meaningful. This is where filtering becomes powerful. Instead of believing every thought, you start questioning them. You ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is this thought true? Is this thought improving my situation? If the answer is no, you let it go. Learning to filter your thoughts protects your mental energy. It prevents your mind from becoming overwhelmed by negativity and unnecessary worry. And when you protect your mental space, your thinking becomes clearer. Clear thinking leads to better decisions, and better decisions lead to a better life. Lesson 5. Focus on what you can control. One of the biggest causes of stress in life is worrying about things that are outside your control. People worry about what others think of them. They worry about events that might happen in the future. They worry about situations they cannot influence. But worrying about things outside your control does not solve problems. It only wastes energy. One of the most powerful ideas in this book is learning to separate two things: what you can control and what you cannot control. You cannot control other people's opinions. You cannot control the past. You cannot control unexpected events. But you can control your attitude. You can control your effort. You can control your decisions. When you focus only on what you can control, something powerful happens. Your mind becomes calmer. Your energy becomes focused. Instead of worrying endlessly, you begin taking action. For example, imagine a student worrying about an exam result. The result itself is not fully in their control, but their preparation is. If the student focuses on studying, learning, and practicing, they are using their energy productively. But if they spend hours worrying about the outcome, that worry does not improve their performance. Whenever you feel stressed or overwhelmed, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is yes, take action. If the answer is no, learn to release it. This habit alone can remove a huge amount of unnecessary stress from your life. And it allows your mind to stay focused on what truly matters. Lesson 6. Don't trust your mind completely. Most people believe their mind always knows what is right. But the truth is, the human brain is not perfect. Our minds have biases, emotional reactions, and mental shortcuts that often lead to mistakes. Sometimes the mind exaggerates problems. Sometimes it assumes the worst without evidence. Sometimes it creates fears that are not based on reality. For example, imagine someone who sends an important message and does not receive a reply quickly. Their mind might start creating stories. Maybe they are angry with me. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe they don't like me. But in reality, the person might simply be busy. The mind often fills gaps with assumptions. That is why learning to question your thinking is so important. Instead of immediately believing every thought, strong thinkers pause and analyze. They ask themselves, is this actually true? Do I have evidence for this thought? Am I exaggerating the situation? This habit prevents many unnecessary worries. When you learn not to trust your mind blindly, you become more rational. You stop reacting emotionally to every thought. Instead, you observe your thoughts with curiosity. This creates emotional stability. It allows you to stay calm even when your mind produces negative ideas. And over time, this habit strengthens your ability to think clearly. Lesson 7. Take your time to think. Everything today moves very fast. People want quick answers, quick success, quick reactions, and quick decisions. But many of the worst decisions in life happen because people do not take enough time to think. When we rush decisions, we often rely on emotions instead of logic. For example, imagine someone receives an exciting business opportunity. The person offering the opportunity pressures them by saying, "You must decide today." Because of excitement or fear of missing out, the person may agree immediately. Later, they realize they did not examine the situation properly. This happens in many areas of life. money, relationships, careers, and personal decisions. Clear thinkers understand something very important. Important decisions deserve time. Taking time to think does not mean being slow or lazy. It means allowing your mind to analyze the situation calmly. When you slow down your thinking, you begin asking better questions. Is this really a good opportunity? What are the possible risks? What are the long-term consequences? Is this aligned with my goals? This small habit, pausing before making important decisions, can prevent many unnecessary problems. People who think clearly do not let emotions control their decisions. They step back, analyze the situation, and then choose the best path forward. Learning to slow down your thinking can save you from many mistakes that others make. Lesson 8. Avoid quick decisions. Closely related to the previous lesson is the idea of avoiding quick decisions. Our brain often wants to make fast judgments. This happens because the brain tries to save energy. Quick decisions require less thinking. But quick decisions are often based on incomplete information. Imagine meeting someone for the first time. Within seconds, your mind might start forming opinions. This person seems arrogant. This person seems unreliable. This person seems untrustworthy. But these impressions are often wrong. They are based on very little information. The same thing happens in business decisions, financial decisions, and personal life. When people make quick decisions, they rely on assumptions rather than facts. This is why the book emphasizes an important rule. Good decisions require patience. When you delay decisions slightly, you allow your brain to process more information. You begin seeing details you initially missed. You become less emotional and more logical. Instead of immediately accepting or rejecting an opportunity, you might say, "I need some time to think about this." This small pause gives your mind space to evaluate the situation carefully. Over time, this habit makes you a wiser decision maker. People who rush decisions often regret them, but people who take time to analyze situations tend to make better choices, and better choices slowly create a better life. Lesson 9. Release your mind from unnecessary pressure. Many people constantly fill their minds with stress. They worry about every small problem. They replay past mistakes again and again. They imagine worst-case scenarios about the future. This creates a heavy mental burden. When the mind is constantly overloaded with worries, it becomes difficult to think clearly. Clear thinking requires mental space. Imagine trying to solve a complicated problem while loud noise surrounds you. Your focus becomes weak. Your thinking becomes confused. The same thing happens when your mind is full of worries and pressure. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is learning to let go of unnecessary mental noise. Not every problem deserves your attention. Not every mistake needs to be replayed in your mind repeatedly. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is simply release the thought. You remind yourself, the past cannot be changed. I will focus on what I can do now. I will not waste energy on useless worries. Practices like reflection, quiet thinking, writing your thoughts, or taking peaceful walks can help clear your mind. When your mind becomes calmer, your thinking becomes sharper. And when your thinking becomes sharper, your decisions improve. A calm mind is a powerful mind. These lessons teach an extremely valuable principle. Clear thinking is not something that happens automatically. It is a skill that must be practiced. When you slow down your thinking, avoid quick decisions, and release unnecessary mental pressure, Your mind becomes more focused and rational. And when your thinking improves, every area of your life begins to improve. Lesson 10. Don't try to think your way out of everything. So when they face a challenge, they start analyzing it again and again. They keep replaying the situation in their mind, trying to find the perfect answer. But sometimes thinking too much becomes the problem itself. The mind begins to go in circles. Instead of finding clarity, it creates confusion. This is one of the reasons people feel mentally exhausted. Their brain is constantly working, constantly analyzing, constantly trying to solve things, even when no solution appears. The truth is that not every problem can be solved only by thinking. Sometimes the best way to move forward is taking action. Action brings new information. Action creates progress. Action breaks the cycle of endless thinking. For example, imagine someone who wants to start improving their English. They might spend weeks thinking about the perfect method. They watch many videos, read many articles, and analyze different techniques. But they never actually begin practicing. The result? No progress. But the moment they begin speaking, reading, and listening every day, their brain starts learning naturally. This lesson teaches something powerful. Thinking is useful, but thinking must lead to action. When you take action, you gain real experience. And real experience teaches you more than endless thinking ever can. Lesson 11. Spend your time well. One of the most valuable resources in life is time. But many people treat time carelessly. They spend hours scrolling through social media, watching meaningless content, or worrying about problems that do not matter. Then later they wonder why their life is not improving. The truth is simple. Your life is built from how you spend your time every day. Every hour you spend becomes a small piece of your future. If you invest your time wisely, your future becomes stronger. If you waste your time repeatedly, your opportunities slowly disappear. Clear thinkers understand something important. Time must be protected. They choose carefully how they spend their hours. Instead of constantly seeking entertainment or distraction, they invest time in things that create growth. Learning new skills, reading valuable information, improving their health, developing meaningful relationships, building something meaningful. This does not mean you must work all the time. Rest and enjoyment are also important. But the key idea is intentional living. Instead of letting time disappear randomly, you decide where your time goes. Because when you respect your time, you begin respecting your life. And when you use time wisely, small daily improvements slowly turn into massive long-term results. Lesson 12. Be yourself. People constantly compare themselves with others. They see someone successful and think, I must become like them. They see someone popular and think, I must behave like them. But this often leads to frustration, because every person has a different personality, different strengths, and different interests. Trying to copy someone else completely often disconnects you from who you really are. The book encourages something very important. Learn to think independently. Instead of blindly following the crowd, develop your own perspective. Ask yourself, what do I truly value? What kind of life do I want to build? What kind of person do I want to become? When you think clearly, you stop chasing approval from everyone around you. You stop shaping your life based on trends or expectations. Instead, you focus on building a life that feels meaningful to you. This does not mean ignoring advice from others, but it means thinking critically before accepting ideas. Strong thinkers learn from many people, but they still make their own decisions. And when you live according to your own values, life becomes more authentic. You feel less pressure to impress others, and you gain more confidence in your own path. Clear thinking is not just about logic. It is about living intentionally, taking action instead of overthinking, respecting your time, and thinking independently instead of blindly following the crowd. When these habits become part of your life, your mind becomes stronger, calmer, and more focused. And that clarity gives you the power to make wiser choices every single day. Lesson 13. Write down your thoughts. Many people keep everything inside their mind. When a problem appears, they try to solve it only by thinking about it. But the problem with thinking inside your head is that thoughts often become messy and confusing. Your brain keeps repeating the same ideas again and again. You may feel like you are thinking deeply, but in reality, your mind is just moving in circles. Writing changes this. When you write your thoughts on paper, something powerful happens. Your ideas become visible. Instead of being trapped in your mind, they appear in front of you where you can examine them clearly. For example, imagine you are facing an important decision. If you keep thinking about it silently, your mind may jump between many different ideas. But when you write down the situation, the possible options, and the consequences of each option, the situation suddenly becomes clearer. Writing forces your brain to organize thoughts. It removes confusion and reveals the real problem. This is why many great thinkers, scientists, and leaders use writing as a thinking tool. They write journals, they write notes, they write ideas. Writing is not just about recording thoughts, it is about clarifying thoughts. If you want to think clearly, begin developing the habit of writing your ideas, worries, goals, and decisions. You will be surprised how much clarity this simple practice can bring to your mind. Lesson 14. Be unconventional. Most people follow what everyone else is doing. They adopt the same opinions, the same habits, and the same lifestyle as the people around them. If you always follow the crowd, you will often end up with the same results as the crowd. And many people in the crowd are confused, stressed, and dissatisfied. Clear thinkers understand something important. They do not blindly accept popular opinions. Instead, they examine ideas carefully. They ask questions like, is this actually true? Does this idea really make sense? Is this helpful for my life? This does not mean rejecting everything society believes, but it means thinking independently. For example, many people believe success requires constant busyness. They fill their days with endless tasks and activities. But clear thinkers may question this. They realize that productivity is not about doing more things. It is about doing the right things. This kind of independent thinking often leads to better decisions. People who think differently discover new opportunities that others overlook. They find better solutions to problems. They design their lives in ways that match their values rather than simply copying others. Being unconventional requires courage, because sometimes your ideas will not match what everyone else believes. But if your thinking is calm, rational, and thoughtful, being unconventional can lead to powerful results. Lesson 15. Think beyond yourself. Many people focus only on their personal problems, desires, and goals. Their thinking is limited to what benefits them directly. But clear thinkers often develop a broader perspective. They begin thinking about the bigger picture. They consider how their actions affect others. They think about long-term impact instead of short-term gain. This broader way of thinking creates wiser decisions. For example, imagine someone making a business decision that brings quick profit but harms customers. A narrow thinker may focus only on the immediate money, but a broader thinker considers long-term consequences. They ask, will this decision damage trust? Will this harm people? Will this create problems in the future? Thinking beyond yourself encourages responsibility and wisdom. It reminds you that your actions are part of a larger system. Your decisions influence relationships, communities, and future outcomes. This perspective also brings a deeper sense of purpose. When people think only about themselves, life can feel empty. But when people contribute to something larger, helping others, building meaningful work, improving the world, their life gains deeper meaning. Clear thinking is not only about personal success, it is also about making thoughtful decisions that create positive impact. Lesson 16. Life is not linear. Many people think life will look like this. Study hard, get a good job, work consistently, and success will appear step by step. But real life rarely works that way. Life is unpredictable. Sometimes things go according to plan, but many times they do not. You may prepare for something and still face unexpected obstacles. You may work hard and still experience setbacks. Sometimes opportunities appear suddenly when you least expect them. This is why the book teaches an important idea. Accept that life is not linear. When people expect life to be perfectly predictable, they become frustrated when things go wrong. They start questioning themselves and losing motivation. But when you understand that ups and downs are normal, your thinking becomes more flexible. Instead of panicking when things do not go as planned, you adapt. You ask yourself, what can I learn from this situation? How can I adjust my strategy? What is the next step forward? People who think clearly do not expect life to be perfect. They expect challenges, changes, and surprises. And because they expect them, they are mentally prepared. This mindset creates resilience. Instead of giving up when something goes wrong, you learn to adjust your direction and continue moving forward. Life may not follow a straight path, but progress is still possible if your thinking remains flexible. Lesson 17. Remove mental clutter. Mental clutter happens when the mind is filled with too many distractions, worries, and unnecessary information. Today, we live in a world where information is everywhere. Social media feeds, news updates, notifications, advertisements, opinions, arguments. The mind is constantly bombarded with input. When the brain is overloaded with information, it becomes difficult to think clearly. Imagine trying to concentrate in a room where many people are talking loudly at the same time. Your attention becomes scattered. The same thing happens inside the mind when it is filled with too many distractions. Clear thinkers understand the importance of mental simplicity. They reduce unnecessary noise in their lives. They limit the amount of useless information they consume. They avoid constant distraction and create time for quiet thinking. When the mind becomes less crowded, something powerful happens. Your focus improves. Your creativity improves. Your decision-making becomes sharper. Instead of reacting to every piece of information around you, you begin directing your attention intentionally. A quiet mind is not an empty mind. A quiet mind is a powerful mind. Because when your mind is calm and uncluttered, it has space to think deeply. Lesson 18. Practical thinking is more valuable than theoretical thinking. Many people enjoy learning ideas, theories, and concepts. But the book reminds us that thinking must eventually lead to practical results. Knowledge becomes valuable only when it improves the way we live. For example, someone may read many books about productivity, motivation, or success. They may understand all the theories about how to improve their life. But if they never apply those ideas in real life, the knowledge remains useless. Practical thinking means asking a very simple question. How can I use this idea in my life? Instead of collecting information endlessly, clear thinkers focus on applying what works. For example, if you learn that writing your thoughts helps clarify your thinking, you begin practicing journaling regularly. If you learn that slowing down decisions leads to better outcomes, you start pausing before making important choices. If you learn that mental clutter harms focus, you begin limiting distractions. This approach turns knowledge into action, and action turns knowledge into real improvement. Many people read books and feel inspired for a short time. But people who apply ideas consistently experience lasting change. The goal of clear thinking is not just understanding ideas. The goal is living those ideas every day. Lesson 19. Question your own thinking. Most people trust their mind completely. When a thought appears, they immediately accept it as truth. But the reality is very different. Our mind often makes mistakes. Sometimes our mind exaggerates problems. Sometimes it assumes things without evidence. Sometimes it reacts emotionally instead of logically. For example, imagine someone fails at something once. Their mind might immediately say, I am not good enough. I will never succeed. I should stop trying. But these thoughts are not facts. They are emotional reactions. Clear thinkers develop a powerful habit. They question their own thoughts. Instead of believing every thought, they pause and ask, is this thought actually true? Do I have evidence for this belief? Am I reacting emotionally instead of logically? This simple habit protects you from many mental traps. For example, when your mind says, I can't do this, questioning that thought might reveal something different. Maybe you simply need more practice. Maybe the challenge requires patience. Maybe the problem is not your ability, but your strategy. By questioning your thinking, you break the automatic patterns of negative thoughts. This gives you control over your mind instead of allowing your mind to control you. And when you gain control over your thinking, you gain control over your decisions and actions. Lesson 20. Spend your energy on what truly matters. Many people waste enormous amounts of energy on things that have very little value. They argue about unimportant topics. They worry about what strangers think about them. They spend hours reacting to small problems that will not matter in the future. This constant reaction drains their mental energy. Clear thinkers understand that energy is limited. Your attention, focus, and mental strength are valuable resources. If you waste them on meaningless things, you will have very little energy left for the things that truly matter. That is why the book encourages a simple but powerful principle. Choose carefully where you invest your attention. Ask yourself, does this problem really matter in the long term? Is this argument worth my energy? Will this distraction improve my life? If the answer is no, let it go. Instead, focus your energy on things that create real progress, learning valuable skills, improving your health, building meaningful relationships, working toward meaningful goals. When your energy is directed toward the right things, your life begins to change. You stop wasting time and attention on trivial matters, and you start building a life that truly matters. Lesson 21. A clear mind creates a better life. The final lesson of the book brings everything together. The central message of Think Straight is simple but extremely powerful. Your life improves when your thinking improves. Many people try to change their life by changing external circumstances. They search for better opportunities, better environments, or better situations. But often the real transformation begins inside the mind. When your thinking becomes clearer, many problems begin to disappear. You stop making impulsive decisions. You stop reacting emotionally to every situation. You become calmer when facing challenges. You begin focusing on what truly matters. A clear mind allows you to see situations objectively. Instead of reacting blindly, you analyze. Instead of panicking, you adapt. Instead of complaining, you act. This creates a powerful advantage in life, because many people allow their emotions to control them. But people who develop clear thinking control their responses, and that difference changes everything. Over time, clear thinking leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to better actions. And better actions slowly build a better life. The transformation may not happen overnight, but with consistent practice, your thinking becomes stronger and more disciplined. And that strength allows you to navigate life with greater clarity and confidence.